When I stepped away from the high-octane world of corporate investigations to start my own detective agency, I figured life might finally slow down. I was wrong. Trouble followed me like a shadow. Allie, my wife at the time, acted thrilled about the change, all smiles and fake support. But as cases got trickier and started bleeding into our personal life, her enthusiasm turned sour fast. One night, after a particularly draining case, I came home and could feel the tension radiating off her. Our conversations became landmines, awkward, clipped, full of silence. I tried to fix things, but the more I leaned into my instincts, the worse it got. Funny how my skills at uncovering secrets just made her more distant. Then Danny came in with a new client, and I knew this woman was about to stir things up. It wasn't her fault exactly, but chaos has a way of announcing itself. "Mr. Cross?" the woman asked, clearly nervous. I pegged her as married. Most of them are. "Logan Cross," I said with a half-smile. "Not the singer. I still get his fan mail sometimes. My dad named me after an old pulp spy. Just Logan is fine." "So what can I do for you?" "My friend recommended you," she said. "Your assistant said you're the best." "I try. And you are?" "Harper Ellison. My husband's a psychologist, Marcus Ellison. I think he's cheating, and I want proof before I file for divorce." She handed me a photo. I studied the image. Early 40s, clean-cut, sharp green eyes, a square jaw. Looked like the kind of guy who smiled his way out of anything. "All right, Mrs. Ellison. You know how this works." She nodded. "I charge $5,000 for 2 weeks of surveillance. Half up front. I have a separate account he can't touch," she said, pulling out a $2,500 cashier's check. "Smart. Now tell me what makes you suspicious." "Well, he's around most nights and weekends. But when I call his office at lunch, sometimes his phone's off. And lately, he's cold at home. We barely touch. He used to be affectionate. Now it's like I'm furniture. I smelled perfume on him too. Not mine. Might have hugged a client. I offered." "How old is he?" 44. "Some guys just pull back a bit at that age. Hormones, stress." She cut me off with a glare. "You think I'm dumb?" "Not at all," I said calmly. "I just need to be thorough. Perfume's a red flag, but not evidence. Anything else?" On Mondays and Wednesdays, he used to call me before lunch. Now I get voicemail. "I'll start tomorrow. I'll contact you as soon as I have something." I stood and shook her hand. "Thanks, Mr. Cross. I just need peace of mind. Call me Logan. Mr. Cross is my dad." She smiled. "I'm Harper." "Ma'am, makes me feel old." "Fair enough, Harper. You'll hear from me soon. Danny's got your info." As Harper left, Danny stepped in and took her seat across from me. Riley Navarro, my assistant for 6 years, though truthfully, she's more like a partner. Without her, this place wouldn't run. Black hair, warm brown eyes, sun-kissed skin. She's got that effortless beauty that turns heads, but it's her mind that sets her apart. "All right, Jeef," she said, handing me a folder. "Here's what I dug up. Danny's no slouch. She's sharp and I trained her myself." She handed me the file on Marcus Ellison. I flipped it open and immediately raised an eyebrow. A former patient had once filed a malpractice suit against him. It was withdrawn quietly. Her husband filed for divorce not long after. Classic red flag. "This guy stinks," I muttered. "Dig deeper. Something's off." Danny nodded with a sly grin. "On it." She left, still chuckling, and I called after her. "Thanks, Danny." "Anytime, boss." She winked and headed back to her desk to keep digging on Dr. Shady. We split most cases 60/40ths, and though I take the bigger cut, Danny still pulls 6 figures after taxes. Together we clear over $200,000 a year. She earns it. We even share a lawyer, Eli Mercer, a divorce specialist who trades legal work for investigative support when his clients need the truth. And then there's Allie, Alyssa Keene, before she became my wife. We met 7 years ago when I left Langley and moved back to LA. After a stint in the Army as an interrogator, I spent a few years tracking fraud for an insurance firm. But a messy case in Paris convinced me it was time to go independent. Allie looked like a movie star, 5'8", knockout figure. We met at a party hosted by my first client. She was his friend's daughter. Things moved fast. A year later, we had a small wedding and big plans. Back then, she was all charm and warmth. But once the cases picked up and I spent more time out than in, her mask started to slip. She grew bitter, critical, like she resented the life we'd built together. Nothing made her happy. Not the money, not the house, not me. These days, I carry my dad's old Colt 1911, a .45 ACP. Took work to get a carry license in LA, but it was worth it. I've always had a steady hand. That night, I checked in on Danny, still working at her desk. Hey, when you're done, log off. I'm heading out, I said. She looked up and smiled, something behind her eyes. Sure thing, Chief. I just hope your wife realizes what she's got. I think she does, I replied, not really believing it. You'd make someone really happy if you ever slowed down, she said. I grinned. Too late, Danny. You missed your shot by a few months. She shrugged without saying a word. I wanted to ask her more, push a little, but she was already focused on her computer again. That was my cue to wrap it up. Okay, pull everything together, drop it in a folder, and I'll grab it first thing in the morning, I said, heading for the door. Good night, boss, she called after me. I got into my car and started the drive home, my mind spinning with thoughts about Allie lately. She'd been off, distant, withdrawn. There was clearly something weighing on her, but she refused to open up. Every time I asked what was wrong, she gave me that classic, infuriating answer. Nothing. Why do women say nothing when they mean everything? I'm good at solving mysteries, but I can't read minds. As I turned onto our street, my eyes locked on something odd. A Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo parked right in front of the house. Not a neighbor's. Definitely not familiar. Just then, my phone buzzed. Ollie's name lit up the screen. Hey, babe, I answered. Logan, she said, voice stiff. When are you getting home? We need to talk. Something about her tone put my nerves on edge. What do you mean we? Who's there with you? I asked, already suspecting the answer. Just come home soon, okay? Okay. I love you, I said, but her reply was flat. Bye. Click. My stomach sank. Red flags were flying. I double-checked that my phone was ready to record audio and snap pictures, and I made sure my pocket recorder was good to go. Whatever was going on, I wasn't walking in blind. I took a deep breath to steady myself, snapped a photo of the Jeep's license plate, and headed inside. And there they were. I walked into my own living room and found Allie locked in a kiss with a man. They didn't even hear me come in. I stood silently for a second, stunned, then raised my phone and took a photo. They finally noticed me. Allie jumped. Oh my God, Logan, you scared me. Want to explain why you're making out with someone in my house? I asked, voice calm but cold. That's actually why I called you home, she replied, like this whole scene made sense. I looked at the guy and nearly laughed. Of course, it was Marcus Ellison. The same Marcus Ellison I'd just agreed to investigate. My client's husband. A mess within a mess. The anger in me flared, but I kept my face neutral. There'd be time for payback. First, I needed the facts. So what exactly did you want to talk about? I asked coolly. Mr. Cross, the man said awkwardly. May I call you Logan? I gave a short laugh. No. My friends call me Logan. And you? You're the guy screwing my wife. He hesitated, then tried to sound professional. I'm Dr. Marcus Ellison. I've been treating your wife. Therapy sessions. Therapy. I raised an eyebrow. Is kissing part of the treatment plan? I realize how it looks, but it's unconventional therapy, he said. You'll just have to observe. This guy was out of his mind. But the more he talked, the more he gave me to work with. You're a psychologist, right? You specialize in this sort of therapy? I said, pretending interest. Yes, though some of my techniques are considered controversial, he said, as if proud of it. And how long has this little therapy been going on? I asked. About 2 months, he said. Allie had never mentioned seeing anyone, especially not a shrink. I turned to her. You couldn't come to me? I said. We've been through stuff before. I told you, if something's wrong, we talk it through. She looked unsure, like she couldn't remember how to respond. Allie, Ellison said, remember what we discussed. You need to take control. His voice had that creepy, manipulative edge. Allie straightened, her face suddenly cold. You're right, Marcus, she said, eyes locking on me. I need to stop letting him treat me like I'm some stupid woman. What are you even saying? I snapped. When have I ever treated you that way? In the bedroom, we agreed to talk about things, try new stuff. You just had to say something. For a moment, her face softened. But Ellison's presence pulled her back into his orbit. I'm doing this, Logan. You can watch her leave, she said, robotic and firm. Allie, don't, I warned, shaking my head. This will have consequences. Mr. Cross, I'm going to continue now, Ellison said. Do you have a chair in your bedroom? He really wanted to defile our bed. My jaw clenched. Yes, there's a chair. And no, I'm not sitting through this. It's part of the therapy, he said, pretending it was all perfectly normal. You don't honestly expect me to take part in this circus, do you? I said, stunned. It's not infidelity, he replied, wearing the fakest smile I'd ever seen. It's a psychological breakthrough. You'll be grateful when your relationship is stronger. I stared at him, numb with disbelief and a rising urge to knock his teeth out. This isn't therapy, I said. It's betrayal. And I won't be a part of it. Mr. Cross, your wife needs to go through this. It's healing, he said, still smug. I noticed he wasn't wearing a ring. Figures. Whatever love I had for Allie had turned into a cold knot of rage and heartbreak. I'm not agreeing to this, I said and followed them to the bedroom because I needed more evidence. Once inside, I discreetly activated the camera on my iPhone as the so-called doctor undressed Allie. She laid back willingly, and neither of them noticed me recording. This is your last chance, I warned. I don't consent. Don't go through with it. Ellison noticed my phone but didn't understand what I was doing. You don't really have a say, he sneered and kept going. That was it. I'd seen enough. I stood up, moved behind him, and with a sharp jab to the nerve bundle between his neck and shoulder, dropped him to the floor. Doctor, I said calmly, did Allie mention what I do for a living? He blinked up at me, dazed. Allie was frozen in shock. I'm a private investigator, and I just gathered every bit of proof I need. Adultery, malpractice, manipulation, you're done. I pulled out my weapon, resting it in my hand, not pointing it, just making a point. Colonel Sam Colt makes all men equal, I said. Now get dressed. Both of you. And get out of my house. Allie gave a long, exhausted sigh. I looked at the woman who had just torched our marriage. Something in me cracked, but I didn't let it show. Alyssa, I said, steady and cold, pack your things. You're done here. What? She barked, eyes wide. You heard me. I warned you there'd be consequences. They start now. I'm calling my lawyer first thing in the morning. Divorce papers. Restraining orders for both of you. I paused, then added, I'm grateful we never had kids. I'd hate to be tied to this disaster for life. My voice wavered, just for a second. Then I turned away. Allie, I said quietly, you broke me. I hope it was worth it. If your lover bails on you, go move in with your parents. Her face twisted with confusion. Logan, don't you love me anymore? Love. I laughed bitterly. That ended the second you let another man into our bed after I told you not to. You didn't just cheat. You desecrated our marriage. I wanted her to feel what she'd done to me. Every lie. Every betrayal. I don't even know who you are anymore, Alyssa. I used her full name. She always hated that. Remember what you said before we got married? I added. You swore you had zero tolerance for cheaters. So did I. And now, look at you. Before she could respond, Ellison exhaled sharply, stepping forward. I didn't flinch, my hand still near the Colt on my hip. You're making a mistake, Mr. Cross, he said, flashing a smirk. I'll press charges. I gave him a deadpan stare. Really? I walk in on you mid-act with my wife and think she's being assaulted. Who'll the cops believe? A licensed PI or a sleazy therapist claiming consensual treatment? Look at her face. She's miserable. This looks bad for you, Doc. He hesitated, eyes darting. Maybe I should call the cops, I added. Let them decide whether this qualifies as therapy or just pure manipulation. That drained the color from his face. No need for that, he muttered, shifting nervously. Let's not escalate things. He tried to flash a smile. It didn't land. Still no mention of his wife. That told me everything. He thought I didn't know. Big mistake. You know, this'll make one hell of a headline, I said. Private investigator's wife caught with her therapist. You want that all over the evening news? He paled further. Please, don't go public. Maybe I won't. Depends on you. Start by refunding every cent Allie paid you. Yes. Deal. Whatever you want. Whatever I want? I leaned in. Tempting. But no. You're not walking away clean. I wanted him to feel cornered. Afraid. The way I felt the moment I walked in. He fumbled with his clothes and bolted out the front door. I turned to Allie. Her eyes met mine, tears threatening, but I saw no real regret. Only panic. Logan, we can work through this, she whimpered. Work through what? I snapped. Where was this concern when you were in bed with another man? She had no answer. You've got 1 hour. Pack your stuff and go. Parents, friends, hotel, I don't care. Just not here. She hesitated, stunned, then turned to pack. I let her use the suitcases. We weren't fighting over those. I'd burned the whole house before I fought for a suitcase. While she scrambled, I called my locksmith. Promised a bonus if he rushed the job. Then I contacted the furniture store and ordered a new bed. Sheets, comforter, everything. When the delivery guy asked why I wanted the old bed tossed in the yard, I told him, I'm not paying for questions. He didn't ask again. 55 minutes later, Allie was dragging her bags out. I dumped the rest at her trunk and slammed the front door behind her. Then I called Eli. I need 2 restraining orders. Allie and her little therapist. Got it, he replied. And draw up the divorce. I also want to sue Ellison, alienation of affection, and anything else you can dig up. Within an hour, the locks were changed, the new bed was in, and Ollie's access to our finances was cut. I froze her cards and accounts with 1 call to the bank. If that sounds harsh, you didn't live it. Save your judgment. I poured a couple of stiff Chivas shots, something with bite. Beer wasn't going to cut it tonight. I stared at the wall, trying to make sense of how fast my marriage had collapsed. By 7 p.m., I was spiraling. So I did what I always did when I needed someone solid. I called Danny. Hola, Jeef, she answered. Hey, can you come over? I need help. You okay? She asked, immediately serious. Not really. Just come. I'm on my way. 10 minutes later, she knocked. I opened the door and she walked straight in, wrapping me in a tight hug. She locked the door behind her and pulled me toward the couch, sitting close beside me. Where's Allie? She asked gently. She'd already figured it out. She's gone. Probably with her parents. I couldn't hold it anymore. She cheated, Danny. I broke down, and she just held me. After a minute, she pulled back and looked me in the eyes. Logan, are you sure? I didn't speak. I pulled out my recorder, set it on the table, and hit play. Then I handed her my phone with the video queued up. She watched, expression darkening. Her jaw clenched. The loyalty in her eyes burned hot. I went to grab 2 beers. When I came back, she'd stopped both the recording and the video. She took a sip, then muttered, that witch. I smiled faintly. Danny didn't hold back. That's one of the things I loved about her. So, what now? She asked. I think Ellison manipulated Allie emotionally, maybe even hypnotically. If so, she needs help. But he needs to be destroyed. His wife deserves to know the truth. Then let's get started, Danny said. What's the first move? Recon, I said, my voice settling into that old professional tone. We pay his office a visit. If you're going, I'm going. Don't try to stop me. I looked at her and smiled. Didn't plan to. Let's pick up the van first. Good call, boss, she said, and her voice softened for just a second. I saw something in her eyes she wasn't saying, but we had a job to do. It had always been there, those subtle looks, the teasing, the late nights filled with laughter. Danny had feelings for me. I knew it now. Maybe I'd always known. We'd flirted, but I chalked it up to harmless fun. I was married, and I thought we both understood the boundaries. But now that Allie was gone, it hit me like a freight train. Danny had wanted more all along. Part of me wanted it too. But not like this. Not on the heels of betrayal. I couldn't become the same kind of person Allie had just proven to be. And if I ever did reconcile with Allie, assuming she was brainwashed or coerced, Danny would be crushed. I couldn't let that happen. We took her car and headed to the office to grab the surveillance van. I slapped some Comcast service magnets on the sides, cheap urban camouflage. Most people don't question utility vans parked after hours. I liked the cover. We reached Dr. Ellison's office around 11 p.m. I slipped on my thin tactical gloves, great grip, no fingerprints, and picked the lock. Inside, I double-checked my comms. You reading me, Danny? Loud and clear, Jeef, came her voice in my earpiece. I moved swiftly, checking the doctor's desk, then his office door. Locked? No problem. I picked it open in under 10 seconds. His computer blinked awake. No family pictures. No personal touches. He clearly didn't give a damn about his wife, even though she was beautiful. This guy had everything and still hunted vulnerable women. I shook my head. Let's see how dumb you really are, Doc. Password screen. Of course. I started guessing based on what we knew. He was flashy with women, but not too bright. Tried. Romeo. Denied. Tried. Casanova. Nope. Tried. Lothario. Access granted. I almost laughed. Predictable clown. I dug into his files fast. He had a special encrypted folder for select patients. I copied everything onto my 50 gigabytes USB drive. It was nearly full when I finished. Videos, audio sessions, he'd recorded them all. Allie was in there too. Several sessions. No wonder he didn't keep much on paper. I found her physical file in the cabinet, but it was a cover. Notes were generic, vague. Nothing close to what was on the hard drive. Find anything, Jeef? Danny whispered. No paper trail, but I've got 45 gigs of video. He records everything. Damn, she replied. We'll go through it when we get home. The way she said we and home lingered longer than necessary. I left the office clean. Locked everything back. No fingerprints. No trace. The security system was old, and I'd already called the company, impersonating Ellison and claiming I forgot my login. They didn't even ask for verification. Amateurs. By the time we pulled back into my garage, it was past 1 a.m. I was exhausted, emotionally spent. Before I could say anything, Danny looked at me and said firmly, I'm staying here tonight, Logan. I raised an eyebrow. You can use the guest room. She stepped closer. No, I'm staying in your room. In the new bed. You shouldn't be alone tonight. The elephant in the room had finally spoken. Danny, I sighed. I trust you. You're the only woman I trust right now. Please don't make me break my vows tonight, not even now. She smiled softly. I won't. I promise. She kissed my cheek and set her bag down. We'll go through the footage in the morning. I brought my laptop. We can split the files. Sounds good, I said, heading for the shower. Under the water, it hit me. The betrayal. The invasion of my home, my life, my trust. I leaned against the tile, breathing hard. Then the shower door opened. She didn't say anything, just helped me towel off, guided me to the bed, and covered me up. She slid into the other side, fully clothed. I was too numb to feel awkward. I passed out fast. I woke to the smell of something cooking and the warmth of Danny's arms around me. For a second, I smiled. The pain hadn't caught up yet. I turned to her. Danny, can we talk? She nodded, unsure of what was coming. About last night. I'm sorry if I gave mixed signals. I'm still sorting this out. I'd be lying if I said I never thought of you that way. But I loved my wife, or at least who she was before Ellison touched her. She listened silently. If she was manipulated, I need to give her a chance to explain. But if she went along with it willingly, I'm filing for divorce. And if that happens, and you still want me, I'd want to give us a real shot. Danny exhaled, slowly. That's one of the reasons I fell for you. You're honest. Painfully honest. And I respect that more than you know. She left the room quietly. I got dressed, holstered my Colt, just in case, and followed the smell of bacon. She was at the stove, wearing one of my old t-shirts and her jeans from last night. She had her 9mm Smith & Wesson tucked in the back of her waistband. Danny had gotten her concealed carry permit shortly after I hired her. Smart move. Smells good, I said, smiling genuinely for the first time in days. Thanks, she smirked, focused on the omelet she was flipping: cheese, bacon, salsa. I sat at the kitchen counter. Danny, I know this whole thing is messy. I don't want you getting caught in the middle. She raised an eyebrow. Boss, I didn't sign up to be coddled. You made it clear from day one. Some cases would get ugly. With my criminal justice background, you knew I'd hold my own. She paused, then added, I fell for you because you respect me. But I won't let that stop me from finishing this case. Allie was my friend. And that doctor? He's about to learn what happens when he crosses the wrong people. Every word rang true. Danny had been LAPD for 2 years before being fired for punching a suspect. The guy was guilty, and they wanted the whole thing buried quietly. She told me everything during her interview. That honesty, that fire, is why I hired her. And why I trusted her now. You're right, I said, nodding. And Danny, there's something I've never told anyone, not even Allie. I took a deep breath. It was time to let someone in. Danny had always been upfront with me, so it was time I returned the favor. What do you mean? She asked, her brow furrowing. I took a breath. I never worked for an insurance company, I admitted. That was just a cover. I was running my own operation, covert stuff. My name is Logan Cross, and I used to be a spy. She blinked. Seriously? Yeah. Sounds like something out of Burn Notice, I know. She just stared at me for a moment, then calmly turned back to the stove and plated our omelets. She set one in front of me along with my coffee. God bless Danny. I figured it was something like that, she shrugged. Either that, or you had a rap sheet. You always act like someone's tailing you, and you know way too much about bugs, wiretaps, and locks for a regular guy. I chuckled. You're good. And you make the best coffee on earth, I added, sipping the mug in front of me. Thanks, boss, she laughed. I'm not just a pretty face and a hot body, you know. If that was all you were, I wouldn't have hired you. She leaned over and kissed my cheek. Thanks, Logan, for everything. You're not going anywhere. You'll be working with me until we're both old and cranky. She paused like she was about to say something deep, but then grinned. You're right. I wouldn't leave you even for $1,000,000 a day. Good, I said. Because I definitely can't afford that. You better eat before I spank you, she teased, sticking out her tongue. I returned the gesture and dug into the omelet. It was absurdly good. That girl could cook. There's a saying about the way to a man's heart. For some, it's through the stomach. For others, it's something lower. For me, it was always both. Allie had been fire in bed, and she could cook. But Danny's kitchen skills? They could cause a man to forget vows. And the truth was, Allie hadn't just cheated, she'd given up. She didn't fight for us. She let a sleazy shrink get in her head and into our life. That wasn't a brainwashed woman. That was someone who'd stopped caring. After breakfast, we cleaned up together. As I put the last plate in the dishwasher, Danny turned around, grabbed my shirt, and pulled me toward her. I'm sorry, she whispered. No, I said, smiling sadly. I don't think either of us is sorry. Damn, she said quietly. I wish I'd met you first. Me too, I murmured. Someone was going to get hurt, no matter what happened next. I didn't want that person to be her. If Allie really was manipulated, we'll find out, I said. Let's go watch the footage. Maybe it'll give us answers. We took our coffee and moved to my home office. I downloaded half the video files onto Danny's laptop and loaded the rest on mine. I started with the earliest Ollie's intake session. Dr. Ellison, smug and too comfortable, was scribbling in his notebook, asking about her life. Family, friends, me. She smiled, told him about her parents, and about me, said she loved me deeply. But then he leaned in and, with a conspiratorial smile, told her not to mention any of their sessions to anyone. He claimed it could negatively affect her growth. The manipulation was already starting. Son of a witch, I muttered. He planned to seduce her from the beginning, played the long game, used his license as a weapon. The second video got more personal. He asked about our marriage, her happiness, her sex life. He pushed, and she gave in, answering questions she clearly wasn't comfortable with until he assured her it was all confidential. Again, she agreed. There were 16 total clips, all scheduled around her Monday and Wednesday appointments. The third session was uncomfortable, more invasive questions, more reassurance that this was for her benefit. By the fourth video, his tone changed. He asked her to describe her fantasies in detail. She hesitated but followed through. 2 fantasies. Then came the NDA form again. Same routine in the 5th and 6th videos. He kept prodding, pushing boundaries, building trust while isolating her from me. And she let him. By the 14th video, I saw the shift. He broken down her guilt, inflated her confidence, and reframed her loyalty as a roadblock to her growth. He convinced her that involving 2 men, me and himself, was healthy. He didn't even ask her to keep it a secret anymore. He knew she wouldn't talk. The 15th clip was the tipping point. About a week and a half ago, he suggested becoming that second man. Allie resisted, barely, but eventually agreed. 15 minutes of manipulation wore her down. The 16th video sealed it. She called him, arranged a time, and asked him to keep it secret. She smiled at the camera, oblivious to the gravity of what she was doing. I stopped the video. My hands were trembling. I looked over at Danny. She had tears in her eyes, her jaw tight with anger. That guy is a predator, I said. A manipulative, spineless piece of trash, she added. And let's not forget, his password was Lothario. I let out a dry laugh. Yeah, he's a walking cliché, but a dangerous one. She nodded slowly. I'm going to hit him with such a brutal legal case. He'll wish he'd never learned how to spell psychology, I said, my voice calm and cold. She leaned her head on my shoulder. We're going to make him pay, Chief. And we're going to do it right. I'm with you on that one, boss, Danny said, perched on the edge of my desk. Those longer videos were brutal. If it makes you feel better, all the others are shorter than Ollie's. She actually held out longer than the rest. She gave a half smile, trying to lift the mood. I had a feeling. She's taller than all the women in those videos. Just figured she had more endurance. You confirmed it. This guy makes Machiavelli look like a motivational speaker, I muttered, rubbing my temples. But as far as brainwashing or direct coercion goes, he's clean, legally. He never uses force. Just persuasion. Guilt manipulation. Reframing. Right? Danny added. He doesn't drug them. Doesn't hypnotize. He just keeps probing until they cave, and then makes sure they think it was their idea all along. And weirdly, I said, looking at the files, he never brings the husbands into it. It's like a rule with him. But they always find out. Every one of those marriages ended in divorce, Danny said. I looked into them. Every single one. She rattled off some names and I jotted them down. Reach out to a couple of the ex-husbands, I said. Ask them how they discovered what was going on with Dr. Dumbass. It might help Harper. Copy that. She walked out of the room, and I pulled out my phone to call Harper. Hello? She answered, a little breathless. Harper. It's Logan. Oh, Logan. Thanks for calling. Are you starting the investigation today? I exhaled slowly. Actually, it's already finished. And you were more right than you realized. Would you be willing to come over to my place today or tomorrow? We need to talk. Not just about the case. This one's personal. A pause. You're not hitting on me, are you? She asked with a weak laugh. No, not even close. But this guy, he matters to me for reasons I didn't disclose before. Danny, my assistant, will be here too. She has information you need to hear. All right, she said. Text me your address. I sent it immediately. 10 minutes later, a sleek, black Jaguar XJ6 pulled into the driveway. 11 minutes, actually. The woman was punctual. I opened the door for her. Danny greeted her with coffee like a proper host, while I grabbed the laptops. We all settled in the living room, Danny and I flanking Harper on the couch, her cup resting on the table in front of her. I didn't waste time. Harper, I need to be clear. Your husband isn't just a cheater. He's a professional predator. A manipulative sociopath using his title and platform to seduce married women. Every woman we found in these videos is married. He targets them specifically. Danny nodded. He doesn't use brute force. He listens. He finds cracks, insecurities, doubts, and pries them open with charm and therapy. Then he positions himself as the solution. I opened the directory of files on my laptop and tilted it toward her. He records all of it. Every session. Every confession. Every moment. Harper's eyes widened. How did he keep this hidden? He didn't, I said. He just knew no one would believe it. And most of these women were too ashamed to tell anyone. Then I swallowed hard and clicked on a folder labeled Alyssa Cross. My wife was his most recent target. Harper gasped and clutched her coffee like it might shatter in her hands. Logan. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. It's okay, I said quietly. You couldn't have known. He's good at what he does, too good. But he's going to pay. She nodded, eyes burning. He damn well better. I want his career. His reputation. His bank account. Speaking of, I said, what's he worth? Harper smirked bitterly. Marcus is worth over $250 million. His private practice brings in 8 figures. His books are bestsellers. He owns property in LA, New York, London, and Bali. The media loves him. He's been on Oprah, Dr. Phil. He even gave a TED Talk last year. I whistled softly. Then we don't just expose him. We ruin him. A full-blown blitzkrieg. Civil suits, malpractice claims, character demolition in the press. But it'll take a few days to put it together. Do it, Harper said immediately. I want in. You and Danny, you've lost something too. I trust you. Thank you, I said. Tomorrow I'll introduce you to my lawyer. His name's Eli. He's already handling my divorce and our case against Ellison. He'll take care of yours, too. And we're reaching out to other victims, husbands, wives. The more, the better. She smiled, but it was tight. I'll play it cool. I've been acting for years. He's trained to detect changes in emotion. Say you're going to visit your mom. Call her. Ask her to back you up. That should give you cover. Good idea, she said. She'll help. I've got a guest room with a double bed, I said. 2 extra garage spots. Danny's already staying here. You're welcome to do the same. She accepted the garage remote with a nod and went home to pack. Danny left shortly after and returned 30 minutes later with a full week's worth of clothes and enough attitude to carry it all upstairs. I laughed as she stuffed everything into Ollie's old dresser with a sense of ownership that was impossible to miss. The woman was all in. The next morning, I rolled out of bed feeling the first hint of peace I'd had in days. Danny was humming in the shower. I stretched, pulled on some jeans, and was halfway to the kitchen when I heard the garage door open. Harper had returned. She stepped out of her car looking sharp, hair tied back, light makeup, dressed casually but confidently. She pulled a small suitcase from the trunk and greeted me with a sympathetic hug. Rough night? She asked. Not as rough as I expected, I admitted. She handed me a thick envelope. I figured this might help. Inside were bank statements, account summaries, and royalty reports, all from Marcus's empire. Offshore accounts, licensing deals, royalties from international book sales, investments in shell corporations. Damn, I muttered, scanning the numbers. This guy is liquid. And about to have the worst week of his life, Harper said, her voice steely. I looked at her, then toward the hallway where Danny was emerging in a towel, hair dripping, eyes alert. Let's get to work. Danny served up another flawless breakfast, crispy bacon, buttery toast, scrambled eggs with just enough heat to wake up your soul. After a few bites, Harper leaned back in her chair, visibly steadier than the day before. I'm ready to move forward, she said, her voice clear. Let's take him down. Soon as we notify the rest of the ex-husbands, we can roll, I said. They need to know the full extent of this. Then they can talk to their ex-wives if they're willing. There were 11 others. 11 men who'd been played just like me. We contacted them one by one, explaining the scam. Some were still bitter, some had remarried, but all were furious. Most of their ex-wives were also on board, angry and ashamed they'd been swept up in Ellison's twisted version of therapy. It was clear, we had an army. I deliberately left Allie out of it. That last video still echoed in my mind. Whatever lines she thought we could uncross, she erased them all herself. On Monday morning, I showed up at Eli's office with 9 of the ex-husbands and all 9 corresponding ex-wives. We filled the waiting room like a courtroom drama. Eli grinned when he saw the lineup. Damn, Cross. You brought a cavalry. I brought people with a common enemy, I corrected. Eli wasted no time. He drafted identical legal documents for everyone, lawsuits for alienation of affection and malpractice, just swapping the names and dates. His printer worked overtime as he fed pages through, stapled each set, and passed them to his growing list of clients. This guy's got nearly $175 million in liquid and around $100 million in real estate, Eli said, doing the math out loud. A class action would be efficient. But this will sting more. That's the point, I replied. I don't just want him stripped, I want him exposed. Shock value mattered. Timing mattered. I wanted every legal grenade to detonate at the same moment. Eli's grin stretched wide. He loved chaos, especially profitable chaos. And Harper, sitting beside me, seemed to enjoy watching it all come together. Danny rested her hand lightly on my shoulder. We're gonna wreck him, she whispered. When Eli finished with the others, it was our turn. I signed my divorce filing against Alyssa with no hesitation. Harper followed, filing her own against Marcus. Eli clearly liked Harper, and she didn't seem to mind. A little spark passed between them, subtle but undeniable. Each case will be delivered by separate process servers, Eli confirmed. Same time, same day. Monday morning. His office is gonna be a battlefield. And we'll be front row, popcorn and all, Danny added. Eli handed out temporary restraining orders on the house. He'd make it all back and more once the dust settled. I had to admire his confidence. That wrapped Phase 1. Phase 2 was media warfare. I spent Saturday editing the footage. Using software I'd never touched before, I stripped Ollie's identity from the videos, blurred her face, digitally changed her voice, and removed my name from anything Ellison said. I did the same with the others, protecting everyone except the doctor himself. I cut together excerpts that showed his grooming tactics, his rehearsed lines, his fake empathy, his manipulation disguised as healing. I added clips of women admitting they were advised to mislead or deceive their husbands, all in Ellison's calm, polished tone. The result was damning. I created a burner email, masked my IP with proxy chains, and scheduled a bulk send to every major news outlet, investigative journalist, mental health board, and watchdog agency I could find. The moment of truth arrived Monday morning. Danny, Harper, and I parked across the street from Ellison's office as the process servers went in. Each one had their target, their envelope, and their time. As the last one walked out, I handed Harper a bucket of popcorn. She didn't hesitate, popped a kernel into her mouth and grinned. Right on cue, Marcus Ellison burst through the front door, eyes wide, tie askew, papers flapping in his hands. He saw us instantly. Me, Danny, Harper, standing calmly like spectators at a show we'd already seen. I raised my phone, tapped one button, and watched his face as the digital bomb started to drop. He screamed something unintelligible, pointing wildly. We got in the car and pulled away. In the rearview mirror, I saw him fall to his knees on the pavement, surrounded by pages of his downfall. It still wasn't enough. Phase 3 was the final nail. I met Allie at a Starbucks. Neutral territory. Public. Familiar. She sat across from me with cautious optimism, like maybe I'd changed my mind. Logan, does this mean you want to talk? I nodded. It does. But not the way you think. She waited, eyes hopeful. Alyssa, I began. I might have forgiven you if I thought you were brainwashed or manipulated. But you weren't. You had 16 hours of footage to speak up. 16. And instead, you suggested I play the role of the betrayed husband in your sick little fantasy. Her eyes widened, glossed with tears. I loved you, I said, voice steady. Past tense. I pulled out the divorce papers. You've already received a copy. These are the final terms. Fair, considering. Logan, no, please, she whispered. I wasn't in my right mind, baby, come on. If I were you, I'd figure out how to explain this to your parents, I added. They just got an anonymous letter. I stood. She reached for me. I didn't stop walking. That chapter was closed. Later that night, Harper confided that Eli had asked her to dinner. You think he's a good guy? She asked, half smiling. He's a divorce lawyer, I said with a shrug. But he's honest. And relentless. She laughed. I'll keep an eye on him. Danny winked from across the room. Smart choice. He's a good man, I told Harper as we cleaned up after dinner. I wouldn't work with him if he wasn't. The next day, Eli called. Ollie's lawyer wanted to sit down. I said yes, on one condition. Danny came with me. We met at Eli's office, tension thick as the scent of old books and fresh toner. Allie sat across from me, guarded and uncomfortable. Beside her was a sharp-faced woman in a crimson blazer, Claire Duvall, her attorney. She looked like Gloria Allred's younger, meaner cousin. Danny sat on my right. Eli, cool and confident, flanked my left. Mr. Cross, Duvall said, folding her hands. Your wife believes your current terms are unreasonable and emotionally damaging. She's devastated by your actions. I raised an eyebrow. Miss Duvall, I've got recordings, phone logs, and video evidence that clearly show my soon-to-be ex conspiring with her therapist to betray me. I think I've been more than generous. Evidence, she said, skeptical. Eli popped open a folder and placed a DVD on the table. Here are 2 recordings of their last therapy sessions, the audio from Logan's voice recorder, and a video of them plotting the affair on camera. And that's just the appetizer. Duvall went pale. She turned to Allie, whispered something, and faced us again. We accept the terms, she said, defeated. Wise call, I replied. We signed everything right there. Duvall notarized the documents. In 30 days, the divorce would be finalized. Those 30 days dragged. Danny and I danced around the line, stealing kisses, long hugs, lingering touches, but I couldn't cross the threshold. Call it stubbornness, guilt, or a final act of respect for a marriage that had already burned to ash. Danny never pushed, but I knew she was waiting. The court date finally came. We hadn't taken a new case since the Ellison affair. That time off felt more like purgatory than vacation. When the judge slammed the gavel and declared our divorce official, a weight I hadn't realized I was still carrying dropped. I turned to Danny and kissed her, right there in front of the whole courtroom. Deep, unapologetic, and overdue. When I pulled back, Allie was standing in front of us. Logan, she said, eyes welling up. I'm sorry. I ruined the best thing I had. Danny, take care of him. Don't make the same mistake I did. Danny stepped up without hesitation. I've loved Logan since the day we met. But I stayed away because he loved you. When you broke that trust, I couldn't stay away anymore. I love him. And I promised to protect what you threw away. To my surprise, Allie nodded and hugged her. I stood frozen. That was the last time I ever saw her. Danny moved in the next day. And those 30 final waiting days? We didn't waste them. When we got home, I took off my wedding band, tossed it onto the coffee table like it was radioactive, then picked Danny up and carried her to her bed. 2.5 years passed before the full fallout of my campaign against Ellison had finished burning through his life. Several couples who had split under Ellison's influence reconciled after winning settlements. Some even remarried. Justice can be healing, apparently. As for Alyssa, I later heard she'd moved to Vegas and was working as a dominatrix. Honestly, it tracked. The psyche Ellison unearthed in her was dark, raw, and unresolved. Her parents disowned her, unsurprising after I anonymously sent them the footage of her and Ellison plotting behind my back. She made her choices. She'd live with them. Harper walked away from her divorce with more than half of everything. Her ex-husband's empire crumbled. Criminal charges crushed him like a brick avalanche. He lost his license. His finances were gutted. Lawsuits swarmed him from all angles. But karma wasn't done yet. One night, before his trial began, someone paid Dr. Ellison a visit. What happened next wasn't covered in court, but I heard whispers. Hospital records confirmed he'd suffered 2 shattered knees, 4 broken limbs, and let's just say, reproductive disarmament. How do I know? Let's not ruin a good mystery. All I'll say is this. If you see an old aluminum baseball bat in my garage, don't ask about the dents. Eli and Harper began dating not long after everything settled. 6 months later, they got married. I was the best man. Danny was maid of honor. Eli made enough off the Ellison settlements to retire early, and the two of them now spend their time traveling the world and spoiling their grandkids. As for Dr. Ellison, his trial was swift. His lawyers tried to block the videos from evidence, but failed. The jury didn't need long. Guilty on all counts. He lasted 2 days in prison before guards found him hanging in his cell. Suicide. Coward's exit. Frankly, I didn't lose sleep over it. He destroyed families for fun. One less predator walking free. Because he'd never updated his will, Harper inherited the little that wasn't seized. She used a portion of it to pay restitution to the women and families her ex had harmed. She didn't have to, but she did. That's character. As for Danny and me, we did well. The lawsuits awarded us a total of $15 million. Not a bad retirement gift. $15 million, I said one night, holding my pinky to my mouth like Dr. Evil. Danny rolled her eyes, kissed me, and told me to stop quoting movies during dinner. We're out of the game now. No more stakeouts. No more messy clients. Just a quieter life. Our son, Lucas, named in full because Danny insisted, starts preschool next year. Our daughter, Sophie, is our little storm in pink sneakers. She already bosses her brother around like she runs a tactical unit. We're happy. We're whole. We're safe. That last case, Ellison, was the one that broke everything. But it was also the one that rebuilt my life from the ground up. Funny how things work out.